This video was brought to you by Ground News. In the past months, there's been several stories about a brain drain apparently underway in the US. In other words, the emigration of researchers and academics to other countries. This comes amid the Trump administration's ongoing war against US universities, with the US government withholding billions of dollars in federal grants from elite universities, Trump last week banning Harvard from enrolling international students, and even reports of foreign students being detained at the US border. As such, universities elsewhere are preparing for an influx of talent from the US, with a poll of 1,200 US-based scientists by the Nature journal in March finding that 75% of respondents were considering leaving the US, with this sentiment especially high among early career researchers. So in this video, we'll take a look at the so-called brain drain and its potential impacts both inside the US and internationally.
Never miss an episode and always feel in the loop by subscribing and ringing the bell.
First though, let's recap Trump's war with higher education. The Trump administration has responded to ongoing student demonstrations against Israel's actions in Gaza by cutting funding to major universities it accuses of failing to protect Jewish students. The government cancelled $400 million in federal funding to Columbia University in March and froze millions of dollars more federal funding for many other elite universities, including research grants. In recent weeks, though, the battle is centered on Harvard, the first major institution to publicly condemn and resist the Trump administration's actions, having sued the US government over the freezing of $3 billion in federal grants. In response, Trump has cracked down even harder, announcing last week that he was immediately blocking Harvard University's ability to enroll foreign students, forcing international students to transfer elsewhere or risk losing their legal status, and demanding that Harvard release a list of the names and countries of all of its international students. For context, this affects over a quarter of Harvard's student body, with the biggest share of foreign students coming from China, Canada, India, South Korea, and the UK. Trump also posted on Truth Social threatening to take $3 billion of grant money away from what he calls a very anti-Semitic Harvard and give it to trade schools instead. And on Tuesday, the New York Times reported that the Trump administration is set to cancel all remaining federal contracts with Harvard, worth an estimated $100 million. So in response to all of this, in recent weeks, we've seen a growing number of reports about the so-called brain drain, as researchers and academics consider leaving the US for other countries. While it's hard to find concrete data on this, there are at least some indications that more US-based academics are considering leaving, while fewer foreign academics are now considering moving to the US. According to the UK job site Indeed, while overall job searches in the UK from foreigners fell in the first quarter of 2025, the share of Americans looking for jobs in the UK actually increased by 2.4 points compared to a year ago, with Americans making up nearly 1 in 10 total foreign clicks. And this was primarily driven by Americans looking for roles in scientific research and development and management. European universities are also preparing to take in more researchers from the US. France's Aix-Marseille University has earmarked 15 million euros for 15 three-year positions as part of its new Safe Place for Science program, which it's called a Forum of Scientific Asylum. And out of 240 eligible applications in the first month, 135 came from Americans. Similarly, Vrije University Brussels has announced 12 positions for international researchers, with a specific focus on American scholars, while the Vice-Chancellor of Cambridge University said that they are certainly organising for potential hires from the US. Meanwhile, fewer academics apparently want to move to the US, with The Economist reporting that searches for American PhDs on the website Find a PhD were down 40% year-on-year in April, with interest from students in Europe having fallen by 50%. So what's actually driving this apparent brain drain? Well, as we outlined before, it's mainly due to Trump's ongoing crackdown on US universities. And there are various concerns for researchers here, whether their funding will be cut, whether they'll be banned from entering the US due to criticism of the government, and the general research environment. Trump has already threatened to bar international students from entering the US, referring to them as radicalized lunatics and troublemakers, which has led to fears among foreign students that if they leave the US, they won't be allowed back in. In fact, there have already been reports of a French scientist being barred from entering the US after they were found to have expressed anti-Trump sentiments on social media, as well as the deportation of researchers with personal links to Palestine. But aside from the threat of detention, researchers are understandably concerned about the US's current research environment due to censorship concerns. In late March, a leaked memo from the US Department of Agriculture's Research Service Division said that terms including climate, vulnerable, clean energy, and even safe drinking water couldn't be used, leading to allegations of censorship and scientific denial. Similarly, back in January, the US's Office of Management and Budget said that federal funding would be suspended until agencies could show that they purged language related to foreign aid, DEI initiatives, woke gender ideology, and environmental justice. So if you're a scientific or humanities academic researching areas that the Trump administration is essentially trying to censor, your job will be far less secure and far more difficult. So what does this mean in terms of global shifts? Well, if the brain drain does materialize, there'll be short and long-term impacts on the US's higher education system, as universities rely heavily on foreign students for income. And cutting ties with students who could go on to become high earners and potential donors in the future could also impact universities' endowments decades from now. Trump's war on universities could also hurt the US's domestic economy, as entrepreneurship and innovation thrives from research, with graduates often going on to build startups. However, the EU is hoping to capitalize on this brain drain, with the European Commission this month setting out the Choose Europe initiative, a €500 million package to attract researchers to Europe through increasing available grants. EU member states are also making individual efforts to attract talent, with Macron saying that France would spend €100 million from its France 2030 investment plan to attract foreign talent, and the German government pledging in its coalition agreement to create a new work and stay agency to support skilled labour migration and speed up the recognition of foreign qualification. Outside of the EU, Australia has also introduced a new fast-track visa called the Skills in Demand visa to attract foreign talent, with the UK also planning to make it easier for people to come to the UK on its global talent and high-potential visa routes. But ultimately, few countries will be able to offer the equivalent of Trump's planned $40 billion of federal funding cuts. So it's likely that many thousands of researchers may just have to leave academia altogether.
If you want to know more about this topic, there's plenty of other outlets reporting about this online. Unfortunately, it's sometimes hard to tell exactly which way these outlets lean politically, making it difficult to understand exactly how your view of the world is being biased by the sources you're reading. That's where this week's sponsor, Ground News, comes in. Their website and app, developed by a former NASA engineer, allows us to pull back the curtain on media bias and have a look at exactly how each story has been covered. For instance, this story about scientists losing their grants in the US has been covered by more than 58 sources. We know that more than 16 of these have been reported by the left, and 4 of these have been reported by the right. That's not all though. Ground News has tons of genuinely useful features. Take their blind spot feed, for instance. This shows you stories underreported by one side of the political spectrum or the other. For example, if you lean right, you probably missed this story on the cost of potential damage from Trump's upcoming military parade. Here at TLDR News, we think that Ground News is an incredibly useful tool for our current media landscape, one that's constantly trying to attract your attention and sway you towards or away from certain political viewpoints. Having a tool that helps you spot this and helps you take action really is a game changer. If you're interested in everything that Ground News has to offer, you can get 40% off the Unlimited Access Vantage Plan subscription by using the link in the description or scanning the QR code on screen. This limited time offer is only available here, so make sure you go to ground.news/TLDR or click the link in the description to get started and support an independent news platform working to make the media landscape more transparent.